Why do intelligent people so often choose solitude? To many people, solitude looks like sadness. It looks like rejection, failure, awkwardness, or the inability to belong. When someone withdraws from the crowd usually explains it in the simplest way. Something must be wrong with that person. But Schopenhauer saw solitude differently. For him, solitude was not merely the absence of people. It was a test of whether a person had enough inner life to live without constant noise, constant approval, and constant distraction. Most people do not truly love company as much as they fear silence. They seek conversation, entertainment, gossip, busyness, and movement, because stillness makes the mind audible. And when the mind becomes audible, a person has to meet themselves. That meeting can be uncomfortable. In silence, there is no crowd to imitate, no applause to chase, no conversation to hide inside, no social role to perform. There is only the person and the contents of their own mind. This is why solitude frightens many people. Schopenhauer's warning was severe. The less a person possesses inwardly, the more they require from the outside. The person with little inner life needs constant stimulation. They need novelty, attention, social confirmation, and distraction, because they cannot sustain themselves alone. But the deeper mind is different. An intelligent person may enjoy friendship, they may enjoy conversation, they may even enjoy society, but they do not need it in the same desperate way. They can sit alone without immediately feeling abandoned. They can think without being entertained. They can exist without being witnessed. This does not mean that intelligent people hate others. Often it means they are simply tired of performing. Society demands performance. It asks us to soften our thoughts, hide our intensity, laugh at things we do not find funny, agree with opinions we do not respect, and reduce ourselves into something more easily accepted. In company, people often become edited versions of themselves. Solitude removes the editing. Alone, a person can ask, what do I actually believe? Which desires are truly mine? Which ambitions did I inherit from the crowd? Which fears are real and which were taught to me by people who were also afraid? This is why solitude can be dangerous. It does not merely separate a person from others, it reveals the person to themselves. And self-knowledge is not always gentle. A person may discover that much of what they called ambition was vanity. Much of what they called love was dependence. Much of what they called confidence was performance. Much of what they called belonging was fear of being alone. Schopenhauer believed that the higher mind often becomes selective about company because ordinary social life can become repetitive and exhausting. The same complaints, the same judgments, the same competitions, the same hunger for status, the same fear of being different. For a person who lives inwardly, this repetition can feel like a kind of spiritual noise. They may not reject people out of arrogance. They may withdraw because constantly translating themselves into simpler forms becomes tiring. There is a loneliness that comes from being rejected. But there is another kind of solitude that comes from no longer begging to be accepted. The first kind wounds the person. The second kind frees them. This second solitude is not dramatic. It is not bitter. It does not need to announce itself. It is the silence of someone who has stopped asking the crowd for permission to exist. But Schopenhauer's warning also has another side. Solitude can become wisdom, but it can also become pride. A person may withdraw because they are deep, but they may also withdraw because they are wounded. They may choose silence from strength or hide inside it from fear. They may call it independence when it is really avoidance. They may call it wisdom when it is really contempt. So the question is not simply whether we are alone. The question is what our solitude does to us. Does it make us clearer, calmer, more honest, and more capable of seeing life without illusion? Or does it make us colder, harder, and more contemptuous? This is the danger intelligent people must understand. The crowd can corrupt the mind with noise, but solitude can also corrupt the mind with pride. If a person uses solitude only to look down on others, then solitude has not made them wise. It has merely made their ego more private. True solitude should not make a person hate humanity. It should help them understand humanity more honestly. It should reveal weakness without cruelty. It should expose illusion without bitterness. It should create independence without contempt. The person who can be alone without becoming cold has discovered something rare. They no longer need the crowd to tell them who they are. They no longer need every silence to be filled. They no longer mistake attention for love, noise for meaning, or popularity for truth. This is why intelligent solitude often appears strange from the outside. The crowd sees distance and assumes sadness. It sees silence and assumes emptiness. It sees independence and assumes arrogance. But sometimes, silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is where the mind finally becomes whole. A person who cannot endure solitude remains dependent on the world's interruptions. They must always be entertained, affirmed, invited, included, and reassured. Their identity lives outside them, in the eyes of others. But a person who can endure solitude begins to carry their identity within. They may still love others. They may still enter society. They may still speak, laugh, teach, work, and care. But they are no longer owned by the crowd. They can leave the room and remain themselves. That is the freedom Schopenhauer points toward. Not a hatred of people, not a rejection of life, not a proud escape from ordinary humanity, but the ability to belong to oneself. In the end, solitude asks one question more honestly than society ever can. When no one is watching, when no one is praising, when no one is calling your name, are you still enough for yourself? Perhaps this is why so many people avoid solitude, and perhaps this is why thoughtful people choose it. Because in solitude, a person may finally discover the difference between being lonely and being free.